Hey everybody, Christopher Odd here, and I screwed up. I didn't record any audio for this entire mission, but we've got an interesting little fix in play. I've reached out to some of the guys who are writing the role-playing logs, and they came through in a really big way. They recorded some of their logs, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to share those because, well, I don't have audio of anything else. So, throughout this video, you're going to hear the XCOM soundtrack, and then there's like 4 or 5 different logs that I'm going to intersperse every couple of minutes, it's going to be sparse, but they're going to be in here, and yeah, just to kind of highlight some of the work that the role player guys are doing, and it's exceptional, by the way. To record it as well is like a whole other thing, so I really appreciate you guys helping me out with that. And they usually post the link in some of their comments below, so if you want to check out all the work they've done, do so in the comments. You'll see some links to giant documents filled with really interesting stories. So anyways, sorry guys about the little mishap, but hopefully you'll make do with the XCOM soundtrack and a few role plays. Thanks.
Julian's log 2-1. Accessing XCOM database. Timestamp 1:05/2035. Midnight. Blindness seems to be a theme in my life. Blind to the world and the factory that was my prison, and now blind here too. I never saw it before, through the anger, but now things are clearer. They gather in the corridors and look like they've been shot. Their eyes filled with a void and thing I could not understand nor see with all the tests in the world. They do not speak or walk the same as they did the day before. A single motion, the pull of a trigger, and suddenly their worlds come crashing down. I do not understand. I do not understand. And I do not like that. Age, anger, rage, vengeance. I know them all so well. But this feeling is different. I remember being trapped in that lab so long it felt like the worst experience of my life. And yet now, it feels like I've gone nowhere. The tears, the pain, the strange behavior and rituals. I escaped that lab for this body hoping for freedom, and yet I find it a prison all its own. Trapped with creatures who I may deem unworthy, and yet I, the higher being, do not understand. Is this shame? Emotion? I don't know why I did it. And all will know by sunrise, so I suppose it must be spoken, so I can finally shut down for repairs. This last night, no matter how I tried, my processors would not stop whirring. I could hear the fleshlings weeping for the fallen, the clink of glasses as some drowned their sorrow and others embraced, the fire burning them in a way that I could not feel. The entire night it taunted me, until even in the bar there was silence. But still the slumber I so desired evaded me. What happened next had no logic, and yet it somehow felt right. I would stay still a moment, pushing in the codes that would allow the pod to let me free. And it only took a moment more till I fell forward onto weakened legs, barely able to walk. Yet through the sparks and systems alerts, walk I did, with a purpose even I didn't understand. Upwards, past the lab to the med bay, wavering, falling, losing energy, but never stopping. I had a new directive. It was not long till I found the man. He lay there in silence, his eyes closed, his face at peace and his body covered with plasma burns. It took even less time to find the object of my search, a small tag around his neck that wore the man's names. It was so light in my hand when I picked it up, such a small piece of metal, and yet, how could this mean a man when I could not? How could it mean the being of such complexity, despite his fleshiness, that now lay below me? Still, on I was driven. Leaving his weapon for its next true bearer, I took the spare that was left with him for the burial, and moments later opened the airlock. It was a stormy night, rain battering the outside of my broken and exposed systems with water in the charge of the storm. But on I went, up to the deck I've stood upon so many times in glorious victory, and up to the outposts of the turrets and radar dishes I've so often seen, and even more often performed maintenance upon. Now for the hard part. The command came to me as clockwork, passing through my systems and firing the rocket jets. Firing once, and failing. Again. Twice. Again. The third time, they caught, and carried me upward, still driven by the feeling as I landed on the Avenger's peak. A solid blank wall that bordered the maintenance hatch and was left untouched by anything but the pale green paint that still stank of alien blood. This part would be easy. Or it would have been if the lightning bolts hadn't continued to damage my substrate systems. But no, I would not be stopped. Stepping over to one of the Avenger's turrets, I drew my weapon and fired. Once, twice, thrice. The metal was left burning and molten, perfect for what I had in mind. I took the weapon and slid its trigger into the burning wall, which after a moment created a cast, cementing the piece of the man's life into the ship that he had fought so hard defending. From there I turned to my final task, repeating the process on the wall in wide berths, heating the metal enough to make it malleable, but not enough to break. I gazed at the dog tag in my hand for a final moment, before pressing it in and taking my own hand, leaving a print on its surface, and writing a simple phrase between it and the tag in the gleaming molten metal. I remember. My task done, I slunk my broken body back to its quarters. I think the one called Colic saw me. If it was him, I hope he's proud of me. I do not know what tomorrow will mean. I thought of philosophy that night. Will I be given the same service? If one day I truly die, who will remember me?
Name: Damon Darkest Nights. Damon despised being told what to do for as long as he could remember. This personality trait led Damon to become largely self-educated and homeschooled. Most interested in the technological and medical fields of science, Damon experimented with basic biotech, such as robotic joints, hoping to get a patent for one of his prototypes. One of the more interesting pieces of biotech Damon experimented on was a salvage D17 prosthetic facilitator, which when inserted into the cranium helps the body integrate with robotic prosthetics. Damon's additions, in theory, helped the facilitator reduce bodily rejection, and this prototype he submitted to a local college's science fair. Damon didn't win any awards because his submission was never technically tested, but the judges were interested in this theoretical technology. The head judge, an elderly woman who was a retired member of a pharmaceutical R&D team, recommended that he submit his tech in for testing, or even try to join some organization focused on experimental technologies like his. After many days of searching, Damon finally found a group of like-minded individuals, creating prototype surgical tech. Given the time and resources allotted from government funding, Damon completed his first major project, a sort of artificial nervous system, which removed all risks of bodily rejection and allowed for more advanced robotic prosthetics. Off to celebrate his major breakthrough, Damon left the lab to buy a few rounds. Upon returning about 3 hours later, he discovered the door had been smashed down. The inside of the lab was a wreck. Drawers open, tools littered the ground, computers smashed to pieces, and in the middle of the room lay the remains of his colleagues. Distraught and racked with grief, Damon called the authorities to report the incident. Upon further inspection, Damon found all experimental tech and research were gone. Damon can only think of one group who would do something like this: Advent. Time and time again, Advent had contacted Damon and his group requesting work to be done on more weaponized biotechs instead of medical, only to be refused. Damon found and joined XCOM, hoping to put his medical and technical expertise into effect in an effort to fight against Advent and the alien threat.
Firebrand's personal log, June 8th, 2035. Subway tunnels and sewers. Not a place for the Sky Ranger, obviously, but it's clearly a place where one could find Advent scum. Lots of missed shots from favorable positions again, the Reaper included. Maybe I should schedule that shooting range visit after all. If this continues, I will do just that. With the commander's approval, of course. Anyway, the Major did it again, slicing and dicing left and right. She took out half of the enemies, the rest of the squad doing cleanup duty pretty much. After securing all the items from the supply drop, we were off to try and locate a scientist. We are kinda missing those in the lab, and Tygan keeps complaining about it. That and the lack of Advent burgers, I swear that man has developed an obsession over those things. Right, more intel on the assassin stronghold location, developments on weapons, and a new recruit. A female Icelandic poker player with a personal beef with Advent. Family killed. Heard that so many times. Damn. Anyway, welcome aboard, Spades. Resistance camp under attack. Time to roll. No, Tygan, I won't stop for those damned burgers. I am not putting the Ranger in danger for that. Order catering or something. Firebrand out.
War recount 61. The team performed another hit on an advent general. There even was a refugee that showed up and didn't die, which is both a relief and has sent the dead people on a mission calendar above 0 for the first time in a while. The team eventually came upon a knot of snakes. Yeah, that's what that's called. I don't really know where I learned that from. Eventually moving down the hall with the general's evac point right around the corner, they saw the general standing all by his lonesome. At least it was until a security team revealed the ambush they had created and how they had surrounded the team. For any normal squad of wannabe resistance fighters, this could have been the end, but this was a highly trained team of professionals that consisted of our personal Terminator, an alien fighting against its own kind, and a lady with mind swords, among other trained professionals. Though, unnervingly, some of Advent's troops kept getting up as psi zombies. At first, there was no rhyme or reason to it, and no one knew why it was happening, until the improved giant golf ball showed up, went straight through the wall and at Cola. That's when the amazing happened. Cola took the first shot with her parry, then she sliced the thing's shell, barely scratching it, but still hitting it. Then with its next shot, that too was deflected. The return fire also missed her. Another reflect, and it finally lands a hit on that Cola doesn't return to sender. This shot back on her did quite a number though, as her diagnostics took a plunge into the red, but Numbers was able to remedy that both with modern medicine and bullets. We visited the Templar HQ, and in more personal news, I visited Pharaoh. During our first run down there, we left almost immediately, and I didn't get a chance to see her. But when the commander was done with his shopping spree, we returned and stayed for quite a while. The main reason was to have the Templar medics get a look at our more seriously injured people and use their magic brain powers to help them. We ran around for a while, and since I don't have any friends off the Avenger, I met hers. We didn't stick with them for long, as even Pharaoh could see they didn't like me. Guess when you have abilities and powers beyond imagination, you let it go to your head and act like a douche. Basically the smart people of the future. I eventually left when I began to fully realize they were just insulting me the whole time, but Pharaoh eventually found me again, and we worked in her office to set up a covert op. Her office was more or less half of what I assume was her room, that a large desk and all the normal equipment I see on a daily basis in my own office had been shoved into the corner of. She had put many little stuffed animals and other baubles all over the room. The one thing that did catch me off guard was the photo of a young her and her father, Geist. You know, the Geist, leader of the Templars, and best of them, could kill you in any way he please, some ways he probably created. I gave her the statue I'd made out of all the metals, and in all of its poorly made, mismatched beyond all recognition form, I let a feeling come over me. I was ready to ignore these feelings, but while I was telling myself how stupid it would be to tell her my emotions, she kissed me. The kissing then led to, what usually comes after. The kissing. Sadly, a mission came up, and I had to leave in the morning. I didn't get the full scoop on what the mission was, but I know Xenix, the psi operative, is going out. Should be real interesting. Signing out, Jebediah Prim.
This is Liam O'Neill. I'm requesting backup. Advent forces are nearly upon me. I'm out of flamethrower fuel. Not much left I can do, sir.
I've been in therapy for the past month, but nothing the doctors can do seems to shake this feeling. I've been getting visions too. A mother and child smiling, a name, William Hill. And green. Green everywhere. And fear, terrible, terrible fear. It's like I'm seeing into someone else's mind, but they feel familiar somehow. Then there's nothing. I've never seen beyond that. I've tried, but it all fades. The elders say we all volunteered willingly, the mind wipe simply to make us better soldiers. And we have brought peace. Did it for 20 years. But I watched the battle report today, how XCOM fought tooth and nail to save those people, and how our men gunned down unarmed civilians. It doesn't feel right. Are we sure that the mind wipe was simply to make us better? Or is there something far darker going on here? I need to check some files. I can clearly remember the faces of those two people I keep seeing. The mother and her child. Maybe they'll have some answers, provide some clarity to the situation. It seems that whoever the visions are of, be it me or someone else, they are connected somehow. A husband, Possibly a brother, maybe? Or it'll just prove that I'm going mad. That's always been an option. Proxtan signing off.